You are listening to Eastman's Flycast, an adventure fly fishing specific podcast covering travel, tactics, and next level insight. Now your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's up, guys? Got a brand new Eastman's Flycast for you. So this week I have on Tayler Wells. I met Tayler a handful of years ago, and he's a guy I've kept in touch with. He's constantly trying to get me out to go steelhead fishing with him or brown trout fishing, and I am going to connect with him on one of those trips, but he's just a great guy. He's just got a passion for fly fishing, hunting, for life, and we dive into it. So he resides in California, used to reside in Oregon, steelhead fanatic, brown trout fanatic. We talk about that. We talk about streamers and some dry fly hatches, and then we talk about whitewater and rowing some sketchy water. He's got this one place that he fishes. I've seen a couple videos of it. It's just nuts, the whitewater they have to go down there. So we talk about that, but he's just a great guy. It's a great conversation. Really appreciate him being on. Make sure to check out everything we have going on over there at Eastmans. We've got the other podcast, Eastman's Elevated, hunting-specific podcast. So this week, let's see, I just had Josh Jenny on last week. This week I have Clint Casper on. The guy's been on a 4-year quest to kill a trophy mule deer. And so he lives in Ohio and travels out west and goes on these super adventures and just talks about everything that he has in it and just how good it feels to accomplish his goals. So a great podcast. That's on Eastman's Elevated this week. Make sure to check out Tag Hub, Eastman's Hunting TV on the Outdoor Channel, and our magazines, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal and Eastman's Hunting Journal. So let's get right into it. This is Tayler Wells, Eastman's Flycast. I'm your host, Brian Barney. Here we go. Man, cool. Thanks for agreeing to be on.
Hell yeah, I'm kind of stoked you're doing a fishing podcast. I mean, I can't imagine how you have time for another one.
Oh, I know it. I'm out of my mind. I like to keep busy, and it is a passion project. So, once I get in sync with things, it shouldn't be too bad. So, yeah, I just finally got a handle on the hunting one, so might as well add some more to the pile.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
how'd your go?
What's that?
How'd your concrete go?
Oh, it went so good. Yeah, I had to pour a bunch of sidewalk. And just like the final thing for this house, to hand off the keys to the owner and go, okay, it's totally yours. Here's my final bill. I'm done. So really good feeling.
Nice. Pouring concrete in the wintertime. Are you guys having to tent it and heat it up, or is it warm enough that it just all goes?
No. Yeah, we're waiting for the right day. So today I think it's supposed to get to 59 degrees today.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's about the same as it is here. That's surprising.
Yep, and then we watch our nighttime temperatures. So nighttime temps, I don't want it dropping below 20. If it drops below 20, I can use concrete blankets to about 5 to 10 degrees, and any colder than that, I shouldn't be pouring.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Makes.
But, yeah, we got some cold weather coming in. It's supposed to get, I think I saw Sunday a high of 28 and a low of 10, so it's going to get frigid again.
Yeah, winter's just kind of holding on here. We just had snow on the blooming dogwoods, so that's kind of the saying around here that once it snows on the blooming trees, winter's pretty much done.
Oh, okay. And where are you located now?
So we are near Placerville, which is I don't know, we're a little past Placerville. Our hometown is Camino, which is about 3/4 of the way between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe on Highway 50.
Okay. Because you were up in Oregon for a bit, right?
Yeah, we lived in Oregon from the tail end of 2014 through last October.
Okay. Yeah, and so now you're back in California. Man, you got some good rivers to fish down there. Do you mind if I get right into it?
No, man, go for it.
Yeah. You got some good rivers right around you, huh?
Yeah, it's not exactly like Blue Ribbon, like how a lot of you have the Madison in your backyard. I'm not going to compare it to the Madison, but there's a lot of interesting places that kind of off the beaten track, or they're really accessible and they just get ignored. Okay.
You were talking about one river that you were fishing quite a bit that has a bunch of whitewater on it.
Yeah, so the forks of the American, you have the North Fork, Middle Fork, South Fork. South Fork's in my backyard. the Middle Fork is the next drainage over, and the North Fork is the next drainage over from that. And like I don't mind dropping river names because like the barrier to entry is pretty high in terms of floating it. Like you can go hike around if you can figure the spots to access it, but the Middle Fork has fairly continuous like 3+, and then it has a couple like class 5s. One of them is a 20-foot waterfall that if you put in as a private boater, you actually have to run that waterfall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called Ruckachucky. I was lucky enough that I have some really good friends who are lifelong whitewater guides and like ran the steep and deep stuff all over the U.S. and they kind of taught me how to row from, I don't know, probably about 2010 till now. I've been learning a heck of a lot from them.
Man, so how come private anglers or private floaters have to run that rapid because it's too dangerous to try to portage around?
It's actually to keep. I don't exactly know the reason. When I was asking my buddy, I think it's to kind of keep the traffic down. Because if you're a like a corporate, like a company, rafting companies, they can actually take out above it. There's an access point that you can drive to if you're a corporate company. But if you're private, you actually have to run that waterfall. And I really don't know why. I'd imagine it's kind of just like what they said. It's just to kind of keep the traffic down.
Okay. That stuff spooks me, that whitewater. Like, I have fun doing it, and I'm good on the sticks and have a lot of confidence. And I can row anything that I can see my way through. But
Yeah.
some of that stuff, like you're talking about, that class 5, I still have one over here that scares me too, is the kitchen sink down off the Bear Trap Canyon, and I've ran up and looked at it at different flows, and that's the other scary thing is like sometimes you can make it over at a certain flow when it's higher because you can get over the rocks. Lower, there's more rocks exposed, and you have to tack around more, but you can get stuck in a lower flow where a higher flow you go right over it. But that stuff spooks me.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we floated the Middle Fork, it was at a fairly high flow, like probably close to like 1400. And at 1400, below that waterfall, there's a river wide just stopper. Like you're not getting through it. It's a recirculating wave that's like 30 feet wide, and the hole is, I don't know, like it'll swallow your boat, and your boat won't come back. It's there's gnarly water, but at the correct flows, it's all totally runnable.
Okay. Yeah, those big hydraulics like that, those things are scary. And, you know, I can tack around fine and get around anywhere I need to go, but some of that stuff just has so much power, flipping you, driving you right into rock walls or into big rocks. That spooks me a little bit. So as long as I can see my way through it and it's a little gnarly, I'm good with it. But some of those bigger whitewaters, I just have to learn the line of them. I think once I can go down and learn the line, just like you were saying with your buddies that are whitewater guides that have so much experience, they're so dialed on the line and where to take their strokes that you go down once with those guys, and then I can see it, and then I can reproduce it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And like the other side of it is like some of the most fun I've had, I think, in rowing my boat around places is just like going and like once you put your boat on the river, you're in between put-ins and you're kind of committed. Just like maybe you don't know the rapid or whatever, and just kind of going for it.
Yep, going for it. It's my favorite type of fishing. Like, all these western rivers are this way. All that stuff out on the west coast and Olympic Peninsula. It's the Wild West, and that. That those old growth trees, and then those rivers will go huge out on the coast out where you're at, so they just blow down those old growth, and you never know what you're getting into. If you're just going to be floating into a log jam, going to have to portage, or like you say, those rapids. There's so much underbrush and stuff out there that you can walk down and try to scout them, but a lot of times, you've got 15 drops in a day. You don't have time to scout every rapid. So you're right. You just got to read the water as it comes towards you. And like rowing this Madison for so many years, it's not a gnarly river or anything like that. It's got some spots to it that can get hairy, and you got to be on the sticks. There's always, corners and rocks, and got to be able to read the water. But it also gets really shallow in the summertime. So if you're not good at reading where the water goes and how it flows, then you're dragging your boat like along gravel the whole time.
Yeah.
So almost a
Are there
different.
back channels? Like little side channels and kind of random places to go adventure on the Madison?
Oh my gosh, dude! There's channels everywhere. Yeah, channels break off. Some you can take in your boat. Some you got to walk. I'm actually scouting a new one I went fishing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and got my daughter to go with me Friday, and then I went solo Saturday, Sunday. We're still in the quarantine, and so
Yeah.
my daughter ran my shuttle one day, and then my wife ran my shuttle the other day. But there's a
Nice.
channel that breaks off down there that's like 3 or 4 miles that I've never even fished. And so just discovering new places. But yeah, there's always new channels, and I imagine you asked because like summertime pressure, those channels are so good. Sometimes you can't pick
Yep.
up fish where everybody's fishing, but then you walk over to one of those channels and it's unmolested, and then you just you tie into 6, 7, 8 of them all in that stretch just because it hasn't been hit or walked.
Yeah. Yeah, like it always makes you think anytime you find a little honey pocket, like a perfect little hidden pocket like that, just like how good the fishing is everywhere else if it wasn't getting constantly pressured. Because I mean, over there in Montana, your river is one of the most popular rivers for tourists to come fish, I would say, in Montana, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is really popular. Like there's talk about passing regulations. I thought it was going to go through this year, but I think it might hold off for a year or two. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure on it, and so there's also a lot of fish, and there's a lot of river.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of pros fishing it that are really good fishermen that you don't want to go down right behind because
No.
they have those good lines dialed and they have their bugs in the right spot and the right bugs. And so, yeah, sometimes like even my home stretch, I've done pretty good lately, hitting some big runs and that. But I just find that I don't catch as many fish. And so, like this weekend, I went to a stretch that I don't float as much, where you got to row out the lake or I guess you could put a little trolling motor out, but I get the exercise and row out the lake. But it's just a float that not as many guys do, and it was so unmolested. There was fish from top to bottom everywhere you threw your bugs, just like it should be. And it was like, huh, I wonder if that local stretch is just getting hit pretty hard right now. I
Yeah.
bet you that's part of it for sure.
Is that squall hatch happening for you guys yet?
Yeah, we don't see very good squalla hatches on the Madison. We do see some squallas, and they will eat. And I should probably start fishing one here pretty quick because it's a great big stonefly. It'd be really fun
Yeah.
to catch them on. Um, and one of my goals this year, you have to go like a little farther west. So I hear
Okay.
that Big Hole has a really good squalla hatch, and I love fishing the Big Hole. It's such a technical river, and that's like a couple hours from me. So I need to make a run over and go see if they're coming off there. They also get them like over in the Bitterroot, like over by Missoula and that. They get some really good squalla hatches.
Yeah, we just kind of our squall hatch where I fish just kind of ended down at lower elevation down in the valley, up on the like the Truckee and other stuff. Kind of they're like 5,000, 6,000 feet, so they're just getting going. But we had an epic squall season this year. I mean, they were on them starting in December, and they're just now kind of done.
Oh man, how killer! That's one of my goals is to hit that squalla hatch. I haven't hit that one right. So it was good for you guys this year.
Oh, dude, yeah, it was probably like I'm good friends with some guys who like I don't get to be on the water as much as like the guys who are full-time guides anymore. But some of my homies like they barely touched a bobber rod all winter long.
Man, how cool. Um, Man, so really thick hatches over there. Gosh, they're an early spring bug, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's like and the thing like you have to consider when you're thinking about California is it's way warmer here on average. So like anything that happens in Montana, like if we have a similar hatch, it's probably going to be like 2 months earlier here. So like you can fish good dry fly hatches on in specifically on the lower Yuba pretty much all winter long.
Man, that'd be a good getaway from some of these western states for sure. Is go be in the warmth and fish that northern California for a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool, man. But the other thing to consider is at the same time all this is happening, that's winter steelhead time.
Yes, isn't that the truth? So you're a winter steelhead fanatic like I am.
Total junkie.
Man, there's not a, you know, I don't know. I like hunting these hatches and hunting brown trouts, but they're like wintertime steelhead. I guess I like it all, but there's just nothing like a big chrome bright steelhead fresh from
Oh
the
yeah.
ocean. Those sea run fish are just so powerful.
Oh, dude, they're supercharged. It's like they go to the ocean and get on steroids and come back just like super mean. And Like I haven't got to fish up in Washington, but most of the rivers I fish in Oregon are pretty short systems, and like you're catching fish that were in the ocean on that morning's tide. So they're like you're the first person that's ever touched that fish, just chrome bright, pissed off, aggressive, and those fish act totally different than they do other places.
Oh, they're so grabby. They do act different, right? And I like catching all steelhead and all fishing I can go do with the fly rod, but there's just something about a coastal steelhead that's different, you know? Like you say, they've been living in the ocean, eating bait fish. It's just like they've been pumped full of all this great food source, and they're actually bigger than the river can support, you know? The fish that live in that river full time are smaller. It's the fish that go to the ocean and eat all the bait fish and things and chase those things around the ocean. And then when they come back in, you're right, man, they're so grabby. And some of those things you hook, they're so hot you're just not going to touch them. Like they're headed back to the ocean, cartwheeling the whole way.
Oh yeah, like every now and then you'll hook one, and maybe like you'll have it for 4 or 5 seconds, and like never do you even have the illusion of control.
That's exactly right. That's a good description. That is like the first 10 minutes of the fight with those things, or maybe like the first 5 minutes is such a rodeo, trying not to hook your reel seat, trying to keep up with the reel. He's out of the water. He's in towards the roots. Like man, I love those fish.
You're like, this is a question I like to ask most people. Like, what's your most memorable one? Like, usually there's one that sticks out in your head more than just about any other.
Yeah, that's a great question. There is like I've caught a bunch of bright good ones, but I remember my biggest buck down on a river system on the Olympic Peninsula, and had been fishing for him and rededicated myself. So I grew up fishing Washington for steelhead, moved away to Montana at 19, and then learned all this fishing knowledge, fly fishing around, and then had to go back and go touch a steelhead. And so I'd been going back like 4 or 5 years, fishing a couple weeks, looking for these things, and caught some nice fish. But I remember just catching the day right, and it was on the rise, big storm coming in, rain the whole day, river was on the rise, nobody was out, and we were just hooking them. I think I hooked 5 that day or something, but I hooked onto one great big buck that just gave me the fight of my life, and I hooked him out of the raft, and then went down at the raft just playing him and fighting him with my buddy, and yeah, I remember I finally landed him down there, and dude, just high fives around, and dude, it's like shooting like a 350 bull. It was just like this giant steelhead that I've been looking for forever, and here he is, you know, just big old kite, just bright white silver buck straight from the ocean, just ran up the river, just such a special fish. And then, you know, grabbed a couple photos, keep it wet, and just get him back in the water, but. Yeah, that's a good question, because there are a couple special ones that definitely stick with me.
Yeah, like steelhead they're so much different than trout, because like trout you can pretty much guarantee, like no matter where you're going, there's a fish in there. He might not eat, but he's probably there. And the thing with steelhead is it's not if he'll eat or not. Generally with those coastal fish, it's if he's there, because if he's there, he'll probably eat.
Yeah, definitely with those coastal fish. It's just whether or not they're there, right? And so it's like there's so much that goes into it. But the other deal that's weird too is that you have to go down fishing perfect all day long, believing there's one there. And you hit 10 runs where they're not there, and then all of a sudden you hit the run where you find one and there's a fish in there. But you're right about that. If you're fishing it correctly, you can usually get them to grab or eat or bite.
From the sounds of it, like I remember hearing you talk about it. Do you mostly swing, or do you indicator fish, or like most people do a little bit of everything, I'd imagine?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Yeah, mix and match. Definitely like getting them on the swing, but it's just tough. It's tough to get them in that early season when they're not as grabby in and through there. And so, and the other thing too is I just like to be effective throughout all the water. There's so many great steelhead runs that just aren't set up that great for the swing. But man, the shot with the nymph rod is pretty sick, and especially you can fish it going down out of the boat too. Get your shots in there, and then you stop at the big holes and swing them. And but I have taken that swing technology to brown trout and like fishing a lot of these big runs. And now I fish streamers for a long time, and standard to fish streamers is going down in a drift boat, throwing towards the bank, stripping back up, change your strip up a little bit, change your retrieve. Also dead drift them. But lately, I've been looking at the river and looking at the biggest holes or the biggest inside runs, and I'm kind of fishing the water that nobody will really focus on in big weighted line, and then fishing my spay rod or fishing. I got like a 7 weight, 9 foot setup with this new Airflow Streamer Max line that's just this killer line, and just getting it to dive down there in there deep, and then swinging it through there. And man, I am getting those next level browns to just grab that thing. I probably got like 6/22 this season so far, just really dedicated to it. It's been fun.
How when you're doing that swinging, how big of streamers do you like to use?
Um, you know, I'm just mixing, matching it, but usually big. like your double articulated, as big as I can get, because I think that's gonna hook a big fish. I was fishing like a smaller, like I think it's a size 6. What it's called, like a dragon something, but it's an articulated double fly, but it's not quite as full. It's a little bit. It looked like that bug that you sent me, that white bug that you sent me the other day. Yeah, it looked like that, only it was olive color and about that size. And but I like to fish them big.
Hell yeah! It like you get the big nasty response. I mean, when you're fishing a lot of those big flies, I do think it kind of elicits the whole fight or flight response. Like when you put it in their nose, especially a big aggressive brown, either they're gonna eat it or they're gonna run away from it.
Yeah, well, and the deal is these fish are such highly fished too that once they get to be that big, they're not stupid, and most of them are just living off bait fish anyways. Now, don't get me wrong, when a hatch is going and you're keyed into it, whether that's a nymph, whether that's a dry fly, like I've caught my biggest fish on salmon flies, dry fly, middle of the summer. But with that same breath, like that, you're always fishing for those big fish with that streamer, where with these other hatches, they have to be timed just right to get that 24 or that 26 to eat it, to where a streamer every day you're fishing for those and hunting for those bigger fish. And like you say, it's almost instinctual that they almost have to eat it when you get it right by them, and so it's so fun. I've got that excitement when I hook those big browns like that. It feels like I have a steelhead on, like all of a sudden I don't have control of the fight, and I really want to touch him and bathe with him a little bit, and so I really want to get him, and so I'm getting that same excitement, or that nervous excitement, like that same hook that gets me steelhead fishing, which has been fun.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, like after wading through a pile of rainbows, like you stick that brown, it's like within the first 2 or 3 seconds, it's different.
You do. That's right. Yeah, absolutely do. Yeah. You guys got rainbows and browns where you're at?
Yeah, we got rainbows and browns. That's pretty much it. Up at higher elevations, like probably have to push like 6,000 feet to get brook trout, but mostly we just fish for the rainbows and the browns. And just kind of, it's nothing all that special, but it's super fun because it's so close to home. I mean, I can be fishing within, I don't know, like as the crow flies, I'm a mile, just about a mile from the South Fork. So it's not a hard trek just to go jump into the Jeep for an evening run and go fish for a couple hours. Super convenient.
It looks like it's full of good fish. It looks like you were landing a bunch of good fish last year.
Yeah, like we got some pretty nice ones. The only problem with ours is our rivers are part of like an power generation project, and also one of the rivers is it's like the first or the second, if not the first, most highly rafted recreational whitewater rafting river in the world.
Wow.
So they're jacking with the flows constantly, so it makes it a lot more difficult.
Oh, that does make it difficult. Yeah. Tough to dial in when they're changing those flows like that. I know there's some rivers in Montana too that have just had tough times with their flows, and really plays a major role in the health of the trout and the ecosystem and the whole deal.
It pretty much ruins the bug life. So like, what is it? I went down there on Wednesday with a friend, and the flows were like absolutely perfect. If I could pick a flow for this spot, it would be probably 300 CFS. And I checked in the morning, and the flows were like 600, which is still really good. Like, it fishes pretty nice, just a little bit faster water. And checked the flows in the morning, they're 600, good to go. And I lose service about half the way down there, and we get down in the canyon, and I get down to the river, and I was like, that's not 600. And it was like pushing like 1,200, and that makes it so like you go from like a full day's like probably 5-6 hours of good fishing holes to like 2 spots.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, it's just where they want to live during those flows, right?
Yeah, like the brown that I caught I'm not sure if you saw that picture the other day, but he was in a back eddy behind a big rock outcropping and just like swirling funky water, like not a place you would look and be like, yeah, I want to fish there. But it's just like big, like probably 50-yard long, like 15-foot wide back eddies that swirl along the inside of rocks, and just like that's kind of your only choice when the water's moving like that.
What are you getting them to eat on?
That day I was fishing under bobber, just on this time of year we actually have salmon flies in the South Fork that come out. Like they usually start coming out, I'd say the last week of March, and they'll be around through like, I don't know, the first week of May. It's not like I wouldn't call it a hatch, but the bugs are here. So they do start eating like the crawlers and like rubber leg stoneflies and stuff like that with pretty good regularity. Like if I have a bobber on my rod, the chances are 99% of the time I'll have a rubber leg stone as my point fly.
Me too.
I mean, fish eat it everywhere.
Fish eat it everywhere, and it's a big meal. It hunts for big fish. Like, I don't need to throw a bunch of small stuff at them and try to catch a bunch of 12 inchers. Like, I'm looking for that bigger, heavier fish, and they just seem to eat a rubber leg.
Yeah.
What color?
Usually black or olive. I like black for the most part. Like, black rubber legs is gonna catch pretty much everything, just like either like a little black woolly bugger, like a little tan mayfly or something like that. You can fish those pretty much everywhere. Like I'd imagine if I came out to the Madison and put on the exact same flies I fish at home, they'd probably fish just as good there as they do here.
Oh, I think they would. Yeah, I mix up my rubber legs. I'll fish a black on black legs, black on white legs. Lately, I've just been hooked on this coffee color. It's a tan, kind of molted pattern fly, and then instead of the rubber legs, it's kind of got. Have you seen like those little rope or thread legs? Have you seen guys tying with those?
With thread legs, is it like kind of like are they stretchy?
No, they're not thread. They look like rubber legs. They're a little bit thinner, but they're almost like a rope. They've got different colors to them. I wish I had some here right in front of me. It's on my list of tying stuff to grab so I can tie. And I started using these the last couple years, and they're just like they're more of a rope leg than a rubber leg. Gosh, these fish have just been killing it, and all different colors of brown. I've been doing good lately on this brown mottled pattern, and then the legs are like a real golden color, almost like the fins of a brown trout, and there's like 6 or 8 legs coming off there, those rope legs that just wash. Man, those trout are just loving that thing.
Nice. It's always fun finding something a little bit different. I mean, especially on rivers that are being guided like that. Everyone is throwing a black or a brown rubber legs. They're seeing a couple hundred of those every day. So sometimes just a little tiny difference will trigger that bite. Just something a little bit different than everyone else is throwing.
Isn't that the truth? A little bit different. And it's one of the reasons I like to tie. Like, I used to tie all my own patterns to try to save money, and then I saw what I was spending on tying materials.
Yeah, you save money.
I don't think I'm coming out ahead. And so what I started doing is started buying flies at good shops, or when I see them, or once a year from buddies that tie, and then I tie my own. But I tell you, my own patterns, they're just proven throughout the years, and the thing I like about them is they're different from everybody else's, and just because they're different, I tend to get fish off them, I think.
Oh yeah, dude. And like the other part of that is, I would say tying your own flies and catching fish is like all part of the game. It's so much fun to come up with something and like kind of think about it and like alter it, tweak it back and forth, and get your little pattern perfect, and then take it out and fish your own fly that you created. There's not many things more rewarding than that.
Oh, it's where it's at. Yeah, and it's a good busy time, like that time in between when you get off work and between when you sit down and relax for the day, or when you sit down or watch TV or something. It's like I like to be productive in those couple hours when I get home, 2-3 hours, and whether that's building arrows or shooting the bow or going fishing for the evening or sitting down and tying flies. And wintertime's a great time for that. But yeah, I love tying. I get a little too creative for my own good and tie some shit that doesn't work. I gotta, I've just gotta, Anymore I'm getting good at just tying the stuff that I really like that works. And after I tie, handful of patterns, I'll let myself get a little creative. But they never seem to catch like my proven patterns.
Do you have like one of those boxes of all the flies that like didn't make it, like in a corner in your tying room?
Oh my gosh, yeah, all the rejects I'll never fish. Those are my
Yep.
lake flies. It seems like fish in lakes will always eat those flies that they'll never eat in a river.
I think I have like I've been working on the same box since like I was like 12 or 13, and it's kind of fun to go look through it every now and then because like I've been tying flies for quite a while, and like seeing where I started and where I am now, it's always kind of be like, okay, like I can see what I was thinking, but I did not quite have the skill set yet to pull that off.
Yeah. And having the right materials too. It's tough to make something else work. I mean, the serendipity was created by somebody not having the right materials, which is a great fly for the Madison. But yeah, for the most part, when you try to substitute, sometimes you can make some things work and look okay. But if you're substituting too much, you might as well give up and head down to the fly shop.
Yeah, yeah, like what is it? I was fishing a hatch on a river up in NorCal for a couple days, and I bought I don't know like 20 of this like the chubby Chernobyl.
Yep.
That fly I think kills it everywhere, but they were munching that thing. The golden stones were popping, and we eventually ran out, and we fished all day into the last one. And like my buddy Alex is like, oh, we'll just like make it work with stimulators, and I was like, bro, no. And like we drove to the fly shop that night, got there like 5 minutes before they closed, restocked on flies and beer, and like stayed up till like 2 a.m. tying flies by like next to a camp lantern. And the next day, same thing again, just crushed them all day long on that same fly.
Man, you got to have the go-to fly, don't you? And if you don't have enough of them, I need to get better with a big box. But it seems like I've got a few of each pattern that I want, and it seems like always the good pattern I'm always running out of. Or like the other day, you let somebody fish their rod and they bust off your good streamer, and then I look through my box, I'm like, man, I only got one more of those big double green. Like I got some other things that are close, but that one that was working, it lost that one, so I got to sit down on the vise as well. But yeah, man, it's super fun to evolve it. And like you said, something just a little bit different tends to get those fish. So another thing I'll do is carry markers with me in the summertime. And it's amazing, everybody gets the same patterns through the shop, but you just take out a little black or a little purple marker and start coloring things up, and all of a sudden those fish eat your pattern better than they were before.
Yeah, man. Do you hit the salmon fly hatch pretty hard on the Madison?
Really hard. Yeah, I hit multiple different rivers. I'd say like that's the peak of my fishing in the summertime. So we'll go hit it in Idaho, comes off on the Henry's Fork there first, and then starts on the lower Madison, gets going on the lower Maddie. About that same time it's getting going on the Big Hole. We'll travel over there and fish it. And then the Madison hatch is really good, lasts for about a month or so in good years, works its way all the way up. And fish the Madison, and then it goes off on the Yellowstone. So then can go chase it on the Yellowstone. So some years, like last year, it was late with the runoff. I mean, I think we were fishing salmon flies all the way through June and July.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, dude, it's such a fun hatch. Yeah, probably my favorite. Salmon flies or the Goldens that are coming off with them, but our salmon fly hatch is epic. But it's also it's epic with people too. You've never seen so many people at all the boat launches, at all the put-ins, at all the takeouts. So you just got to really find, you got to go looking for them. But if you work hard enough, you just get into some really good fishing. You get to have your own experience. You just don't let it get to you. You just adapt.
Yeah, most of my salmon fly fishing was on the Deschutes, and it's busy just like that with a little caveat. You can't fish out of a boat on the Deschutes.
Okay.
So it's all like there's a person underneath every single tree, so you're just going to find your tree, and the best part is it doesn't matter that it's crowded. You just like find your spot, and there's probably going to be a fish there.
Yeah, when it's fishing good, when your timing's right, it doesn't matter how many boats are on the water. You just get them, and you get big fish. Those fish are just eating it. They're keyed into it. But it's a finicky hatch. Like sometimes the bugs will be around, but the fish are gorged or the fish aren't eating them. So you just got to keep going and keep trying to time it right. And we also have a couple sections that are wade fishing only that you can float your boat through that are really great fishing that I love being a sportsman because it's tough for the guides to bring their clients and wade them out, and it takes a lot more skill, from not that it takes more skill, but it does to fish from the bank and get your runs in. You can't just run lines down a drift boat with your stuff out. And so, like those weight only spots, those things are money for me. In fact, I've been fishing one here those last couple days is weight only. So take my boat down in there and yeah, it's good fishing.
Yeah, like it really opens your eyes to how much line management, like being able to mend and being able to throw a cast maybe 10, 20, 30 feet, that stuff does really matter. Especially when you don't have a boat to use or a guide to push your flies downriver for you.
Yeah, that's the truth. Well, I've been fishing with my daughters quite a bit, and they're getting really good at everything. But there's a lot of skilled fishermen on the Madison. So we go down out of a boat and then, yeah, fishing from shore. We're still working on it. We're getting better. We're improving at all facets of fishing, but I have to remember they're just learning from scratch, and so it's just being patient with them. But they've been hooking into some fish and doing pretty good.
Do they enjoy fishing? Have they kind of caught the bug how you have?
I don't think they've quite caught it like I have. They're in it to spend time with Dad and have a good time. I mean, definitely since this quarantine's gone on, I'm not going to say it's forced them to be out with me, but there isn't much else to do, and so we've got a lot of time on the water. But yeah, I'd say, I mean, they drift with me quite a bit throughout the summer. They like it. They just haven't really caught the bug yet. It's not really their deal, but they do have fun every time they go out, and it is an adventure.
Yeah, just being outside and like being on the water is kind of special. That's kind of how I got into fishing early on. Was my dad was way into it, and from an early age we were doing saltwater in Northern California, chasing salmon and halibut and all that sort of stuff. And I think I found fly fishing when I was like 13, and kind of went off the deep end from there, and took me to Alaska and all sorts of places.
What a great introduction into the sport! Like having a mentor like that, your dad that just loves it, take you around and you guys go on these fly fishing adventures. How cool, man! What a great way to grow up.
Yeah, I mean it's something like we still share to this day, and I think that's one of the things I find really interesting about fishing is like how many families and just like friends and like social groups have such a connection over like a shared common interest.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Like it's a deeper connection too, isn't it? Like fly fishing buddies and in my family, like just fishing with them, it just brings you closer. Like you go out and have a day together, have an adventure together. You share something real. It's just not sitting around having a cold beer, or sitting around a bar stool or something like that. It's just a deeper connection, it feels like.
Yeah, I have a group of buddies. One's from San Diego, one's from Northern Idaho, one's from Southern Oregon, and I live here. And like usually only once a year, sometimes twice, we'll just take a big trip somewhere. Like last year, we did a 5-day float down the Deschutes, and it's like friends like that. When you spend so much time in close proximity, it's like you learn a lot about each other pretty quickly. And it's like every time we see each other, it's like it was just yesterday that we got off the water from the last trip.
Oh man, how fun is that? Like it's getting together with buddies like that. You have some laughs and your stomach almost hurts when you get done. You've been laughing so much, but you're right. You just have this connection because you're going to do what you love to do together. And you're also taking risk and you're out in the elements and it's part of that, like that book Tribe that talks about military guys that build such a great bond because they go through so much together. And not that we compare to that, but some of these outdoor activities, you build such a bond because you go through trying times together, and so yeah, man, I just love that. There is nothing funner than that. So you guys did 5 days down the Deschutes?
Yeah, dude, that's such a fun float. Like I really recommend that everybody should see that river someday. If you can't row it, you should book a guide, just because it's like the fishing's pretty dang good. But what I like more is just the camping and all that, because it's kind of like an eastern, more desert look river, like high mesas, red rock, sagebrush flats, and it's just like the camping is unbelievable. Like just the stars and the birds, and like you get to camp right on the water and find your spot, set your camp up. And like usually we would just like not even set up tents. We had like a 20-foot long tarp, and we just threw the tarp out and everybody slapped their pad down, and you'd pretty much like fish all day. And then like we like to get a little rowdy, so like kind of drink whiskey till you fall asleep, and then wake up when you wake up, and just get after it the next day, and do that for dang near a week. That's a pretty fun way to do it.
Oh man, how fun! A week long too. Man, that gets you away from everything that you're thinking about in life. It's just such a good release and such a good getaway, and it gives you
Oh yeah.
such perspective in your life. But you get to just truly have fun and cut loose for 5 days, laughing with your friends. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Catch a bunch of fish on that thing.
Yeah, like we were a little early. Like we were kind of going for like the beginning of the salmon fly hatch, and we got some bugs hatching, but the fishing subsurface for them was pretty dang good. I mean, everybody caught fish every day, and it was like the sort of thing where there was four of us, so we had two boats, and like you just stop. One guy would get out, fish a spot, catch a fish, then you'd hop like 100 yards downriver. Next guy would get out, catch a fish, then you'd hop like 100 yards downriver. So it was just like hopscotching, and then like the other boat would be on the other side of the river, just flinging bullshit back and forth, and it was a blast.
Man, how cool! And so that's the river you were talking about. That's weight only.
Yeah, the Deschutes is weight only, and then like the upper portion, the river left side is actually an Indian reservation. So if you're not with the tribe or being guided by a tribal member, you actually can't even fish the left side. So everyone's focused on the right for like I think it's about 15 miles of the float, and you can put in up higher, and like the total it's like you can float about 40 miles of river, but you're mandatory to do like I think it's 32. And then there's some pretty dang big whitewater, a rapid called Whitehorse that sinks boats every single year. That almost took mine once.
No kidding.
But that's always like that's kind of all part of it. Like I had some pretty big name guys in the fishing industry. Like one of them is an editor of a pretty well known magazine, and the other is an owner. And we were eating lunch right above this rapid, and both of these boys are like 300 pounders, and we run 2 seats in the front and gear in the back. And so my boss, this is like my second season on the shoot, so I probably have 25 runs down this rapid. My boss puts these guys on my boat right before lunch. I'm like inside my head, I'm like, man, what are you doing? These are like the largest men. Each of these guys is the largest men on the float by far. And we get down, like make the move to the rapid, and there's this just a giant wave train at the bottom. And I kind of drop into the first trough for the first wave, and rather than kind of like my bow riding up over and just taking a little splash, the point of my bow just plows straight into the river at the bottom of the trough and fills my drift boat with probably 300 gallons of water, like faster than you can imagine. And the next wave did the same, and the next wave did the same. And by the time we got out of the wave train, like, when you're sitting in your boat in the rower's bench, and like how where your knees sit with your feet flat on the floor, that's where the water was too.
Oh my gosh.
We had like maybe 6 inches of boat out of the water.
Oh my gosh. And so you ran the rapid the same as you always do, and you
Yeah,
went over the wave train, but 600 pounds in the front just dolphined your boat like straight under the water, huh?
Yeah, I was bailing for like an hour. But all like little learning experience. Now I know like how many pounds you cannot put in the front of a clacker craft.
I'd say you run a high side.
Yeah, it's not like Clack has a boat called a high side. I think my gunnels are like 23 inches or something like that, fairly standard.
Okay. Oh,
what do you
man,
row?
that's so spooky. Out here we have a bunch of wind in Montana, so I've got like a low-sided hide, and thing's just a lightweight Ferrari out here on these rivers.
Yeah.
Doesn't take much water to draft, and and it just cruise anywhere. It's really quick, and then doesn't catch much wind. It's the perfect boat for out here. But some of that bigger water and stuff, I've taken it through a lot of the bigger water. But I definitely worry about it. I'd hate to sink a boat. It'd be the worst.
Yeah, like it's always an interesting thing when you get like that little stomach in your throat moment where you're not sure exactly what's going to happen. Like you drop over a lip of a rapid, and like you might not be exactly where you want to be, and you get that kind of oh shit feeling, and you start rowing like mad trying to get in the safe spot.
Oh my gosh. I do love it a little bit though, right? I love the excitement. I love going down through there. I love the anticipation of rapids. And then just being with my buddies. It's so fun. Like you're just flipping each other's shit throughout the day, how you're going to wreck at the last rapid, or how you're going to do this or do that. Like it's just hilarious. Like it's I don't know, when I'm faced with difficult situations, like my go-to is to kind of laugh about it and make jokes. And I think we're all kind of wired that way, and you do want to be safe, and I definitely don't want to go swimming, and I don't want to be swimming and wreck my boat, but I do like going through them.
Yeah, man, running rapids is probably half the fun. Like that was one of the things I loved about living where I did in Oregon. I was like from my front door to from my house. Sorry if I'm jumping subjects all over the place, but I'm kind of segueing, I guess.
Oh, no worries.
We only lived like 40 minutes from the coast, and I would drive from the top of the drainage of the river I liked the most down to the bottom, and like I'm pretty confident on the oars, so like I'd be running spots that like I've some of the water I fish I've never seen another drift boat on, which is always kind of interesting. Like running past water in a drift boat's always fun.
That's spooky when you're the only guy that rows a drift boat there. But yeah, some of you coastal guys, man, you're nuts. I see we'll run water in a raft, and all of a sudden there'll be one lone drift boat that made it down through there, and they actually tack better than a raft and row better than a raft. You just can't make any mistakes.
Yeah, they sink. Rafts don't sink.
Yeah, exactly. Huh, how gnarly, man. Yeah, I know those coastal rivers, and for those steelhead, I mean, it sounds like everything you're running, there's some risk involved, but yeah, some of those coastal rivers, some of the best water sits after whitewater or during the float. You just got to run that stuff to find fish.
Yeah, worst comes to worst, like I'm not sure if it's the same in Washington, but a lot of the put-ins I use in Oregon, they're not put-ins. It's like, hey, there's a little gap in the rocks, and there's like 200 feet down to the river, and just like hook a rope up to it and send your boat down the cliff. So I just throw that rope in my boat, and like every now and then, like I've done it a few times where I've floated some new water and I looked at a rapid and I was just like, nope. So I'll just hook the rope up to the boat, and then you get like one guy down below and one guy above, and you just kind of pull the drift boat down through the rapid with the rope, and that works pretty dang good.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good maneuver for sure. Use the rope trick. Yeah, I'm with you. There are no put-ins or takeouts, or not very many of them. We do the same thing. It's like gravel bars, or you're dumping your boat off the edge of some highway, or the edge, where the ramp is washed out, or who knows. But that's a good trick with that rope. A lot of times these rapids are so big, I'm not able to walk boats down.
Yeah.
It seems like I just got to look at it and then I just got to send it. Like it's like there's no other way. There's no walking around or anything. Like a lot of times.
Yeah, it's always an interesting feeling, like when you scout the rapid and you kind of walk up to the edge and you're just kind of like trying to figure out the line, and eventually like you don't have a choice of running it or not. Like you can't get your boat out of the canyon, so you just kind of got to pick your best spot and just go for it. Probably a good metaphor for life, I'd imagine.
It is a good metaphor for life, isn't it? The always moving forward, just got to choose your line and go for it. You don't always know if it's going to work out or not, but
yeah, I'm kind of having a headed to the rapids moment. I kind of quit my job, and I'm totally trading career paths, and I'm going to lineman school here next week. So the cool part is where the lineman school is, I'm staying on a ranch right on the Yuba. So like after school, before school, I get to go fishing and hopefully crush that career and get a new career going and get to go fishing every morning before school.
Yeah, right on. Good for you. Man, it takes those major moves. They aren't easy, but good on you, like choosing a new career path, and especially like that lineman school. It's got such a good future. Sounds like if you just go do the schooling and put your head down and work hard and can get hired on by those guys, yeah, you make a pretty good life. And that's the key too. Some guys can live as fish hippies, and then for me, I gotta get stuff right. I gotta make enough, make sure I'm supporting my family, and then I get to go out and play as much as I can. I've always thought like the evenings are always my time, the weekends are always my time, and I do get to steal a day here or there. But yeah, man, you take care of that stuff and get a good job, and it seems like you're able to fish way more than you would be if you were a fish bum.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I have a lot of friends who it seems like they kind of like focus their lives on recreation. Which is a fun thing to do and all, but like I did that for quite a while, and I'm kind of paying the price for it now, and I'm trying to focus on putting recreation a little bit on the back burner. Like with school coming up, I have no idea if I'm gonna go fish this fall. Even like I'm kind of not even planning on buying any tags this year. Might do Colorado, but I'm probably not gonna be able to hunt it all this year just because like I'm going to make that short-term sacrifice, and maybe a couple of years from now, I'll be able to take a couple months off and do whatever the heck I want after making good money. And like, I'd like to have kids someday, and I want to be able to buy a house and stuff like that. So, I mean, short-term sacrifice, hopefully,
yeah,
will lead to long-term reward. Or at least that's kind of what I'm banking on.
Spot on. It will. Yeah, it's like anything you work towards or put your effort in, it usually pans out, So, man, I'm with you. Yeah, for the greater good, the sacrifice, So, I'm with you. Work hard. You'll still get some good fishing in. Make a little sacrifice and get in that lineman school, and then get even more time off. But yeah, it's tough, right? Because I always think like play hard and work hard, because that's me too. Is the only way I've known how to make money my entire life is through construction, and
Yep.
construction is hard work, and I gotta hustle, and it's it's people's biggest purchase they make in their entire lives, and so like being the guy that's responsible for it, I can't just not show up on a Wednesday. Like it's, I've got to make sure work's getting done, everything's progressing. I've got a ton of responsibility. More responsibility, the more money you make. And so, yeah, for me too. Like, I can't leave that behind. It's the one way I know how to make money, and I built a reputation over the years. So then it's just like, how can I schedule my life inside that or around that to get as much days doing what I like as I can. And now I'm to the point where I'm reaping the benefits or the rewards, where I've ran that business for 15 years, and now I've got good employees and good people in place, so I can take off for a week and go do a fishing trip, or take off for a week and go do a hunting trip, and know that things are taken care of, and then picking and choosing clients and things. But yeah, a lot of years I've missed out on a lot of good fishing due to work, that's for sure.
Yep. But it's all worth it now.
Oh man, it is all worth it now. Yeah, I'm living the life and living in a really great place, and a bunch of time to recreate. So it's all worked out and paid off. But yeah, I'm with you, man. For the greater good, I think it'd be good for you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But hopefully one of these days, I've been bugging you for a couple years about it. We got to get together and try to go catch some steelhead or something. Like I'm sure we could find a place to meet up and go get after it. That'd be a blast.
Oh, we have to. There's some good rivers that are in the halfway point for us too, that have good spring Chinook runs.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is there's just so much fun stuff to do in the fall. But yeah, we do need
Oh
to put
yeah,
something
dude.
together, whether it's a hunt, a fishing trip, or both. But yeah, midway in between us, there's some good systems in there.
Yeah, like there's some pretty cool like wilderness floats. I mean, like you can always like put in for a permit and go to like the Middle Fork Salmon that has like stout whitewater and like wilderness camping and all that, and that stuff's a blast. I'm really like the more like trips I go on that are like longer distance overnight float trips, like that stuff is so much fun just because like you're totally immersed in it. Like not only do you not have a cell phone, but like you don't have the option to call somebody, and it's just like it kind of goes back into like one of the reasons I like going hiking in the backcountry, because like you're committed. Your choices have gravity, and it's just like you're fully immersed in the experience when you go on those like 30 to 60-mile canyon river trips. Those are a blast.
Man, I'm sold. I haven't ever done one. Like, I need to go do the Smith here in Montana, would be a fun one. Um, yeah, or go do one of these multi-day river trips like you're talking about. Man, that sounds like a good time. Like, immersed more in the experience. Like, it sounds like a pure experience. Man, it sounds really cool. I've got to go try that out. Yeah, the Middle Fork of the Salmon would be awesome. I had high hopes. Like, my closest steelhead waters are the Clearwater, which I fish a lot, and then the salmon. And the salmon's just a great river. Like, you can do those longer stretch floats, but also just go over there camping. And there's 100 miles of river that you can fish with drift boat put-ins and takeouts. And the steelhead are a little bit smaller size in that system, but there's a bunch of them in there. You can catch them swinging, nymphing, going down. Like,
Yep.
I wanted to take my dad down there and go do that this year, but all this corona going around, we're just riding things out.
Oh yeah, man. Nobody knows what's going on. Like in talking about the salmon, like I'm not sure if it's the same way as like the Klamath where I fish in California, but those long running steelhead, they get super trouty in the Klamath. I'm not sure if they're the same on the salmon, where they just get like they act a little more like trout sitting in the riffles. Like they eat a lot more like buggy flies, kind of more aggressive and grabby.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's just different. Like, I'd say the Clearwater's definitely different, where they sit in big wintertime holes and kind of
Mm.
stack up, and definitely as you fish them higher. I mean, I think they'd be grabbier like fishing them in the fall. I think when that
Mm-hmm.
water's warmer, that
Yeah.
wintertime water that I'm fishing in the springtime, but it's warming up now. It should be good fishing down there. I would think they're getting pretty grabby on that thing. It'd just be fun because it's like 5 hours away from my house.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool living in Montana and having like, I don't know, like that's not too far of a drive to do like a day and a half, or like I don't know, I'll drive 5 hours to fish for one day.
Yeah, that's like that Clearwater is a great system for that. It's like full of fish, and they're all big B runs, and so they
Yeah.
12 to 16 pound average on those fish. And you know, like you say, they've had to run up through dams and run quite a few miles to get up there, but they're still a hard fighting fish. They're still a steelhead, you know. They're not quite the coastal variety like we were talking earlier, but they're just fun to fish for, and it kind of gets me a fix. And it's, you know, it's a coastal river with cedar trees and big
Mhm.
forest and winding down to the Pacific, so it's pretty fun to go over there and fish for sure.
Heck yeah, man. Speaking of steelhead, I know I kind of mentioned this to you over text, but like an upcoming project that, in terms of like conservation, that's kind of interesting is, have you ever heard about the dam removal process on the Klamath?
Man, that's great. They're going to remove that dam on the Klamath.
They're going to take 4 down. It's going to be the largest river recovery, I think, in U.S. history. It's been a super long project coming, and it's going to open a massive amount of spawning habitat. The river is going to totally change. Like it's super super exciting.
Wow, good for you guys. And that's so good for the fish runs, isn't it? We put so many dams in place, and it's really wreaked havoc with these steelhead and salmon runs on the West Coast. I mean, there's a lot that has to do with their runs, but that's a major portion of it, right?
Oh yeah, like the Klamath it comes out of like a big swampy basin, and so in the summertime the water coming into the Klamath is actually quite warm, and so it's been experiencing all sorts of fish kills and high levels of bacteria, and there's a parasite that's been killing them. So this whole dam removal, it's gonna like create a huge increase in water quality, which is gonna help both resident trout. The population should jump because there is a pretty good population in the upper sections. Anadromous fish will benefit, and beyond that, it's going to like boost a bunch of tourism, just because like a nicer, cleaner river, more people are going to want to be friends with it, and therein it'll just be more and more protected and loved. And like that's what's cool about the generation we're in now is like, I don't know, you're probably our parents' generation. They were building dams, and now we're taking them out.
Man, what a great restoration project. And so they're taking out 4 dams. Were they old hydro dams, or what were they put in for?
Yeah, they were designed for hydro and irrigation. Like the Klamath Basin is this. It was a lot of it was originally like high desert and swamp, and when they dammed all the rivers, it created like massive irrigation projects. So I don't even know how many acres of farmland it's created, but it's kind of like lived it's past its I'm not sure if the correct word is like maximum lifespan or efficiency. There's just the reservoirs are super full of silt and stuff like that. But it's like it's an interesting process, man. It was very contentious. Like I think Mark Twain said, like whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting over. And like there's been literal water wars in the Klamath Basin, and finally it's actually happening. And like I'm pretty sure that within my lifetime I'm gonna get to see those dams come down, and when they do, I'm gonna be there in person.
Man, what a great project. To be able to take those down and create, you know, or to bring back a river system that once flourished. Man, you guys are gonna get steelhead runs back there, salmon runs back there. Yeah. What an awesome project. Yeah. And you'll be the first in line waiting to float that thing.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool because like I mean, if you look at historical numbers, the top 3 salmon runs in the world were the Columbia, the Fraser, and the Klamath. And like looking at the size of the Columbia and the size of the Fraser, I mean like the Snake is a massive river, and that's a tributary to the Columbia, and that river got a ton of fish. The Klamath had just as much, or I don't even know the numbers that used to return to the Snake, but for the size of the river, it is incredible how many salmon and steelhead used to go up there.
Oh man, yeah, what an awesome project! And so they got all the approval that they're gonna move forward with it.
Yeah, they have the contractors are bidding for subs to come in and like get their work done, and like it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's just when they actually start to break ground. I think they're gonna start within the next year or so, and they're actually gonna take all 4 out at once.
Oh wow.
kind of to minimize the disturbance and try to get a lot of that, like the silt and particulate matter that's built up behind those dams to blow out as fast as possible.
Man, it's not very often you get a new river to fish.
No, and it's gonna totally change things. Like I can only imagine once there's a section of river that's going to be opened up that has a really strong resident trout population. Like they're big, they're mean, they live in big whitewater. And what I'm like, my buddies and I are always talking about is like when they open the door, what are those trout going to do? Because they're steelhead. They've just been trapped for 60 years or something like that.
Oh man, that's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they open the door and it's gonna be probably one of the most interesting restoration projects that like we're gonna get to watch happen.
Huh. How cool! And gonna be right out your back door.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to kind of like showing it to my kids someday, and they can show it to their grandkids. And I don't know, it's probably the same thing with everything. It's always nice to have these special places and share them with others.
Well, they mean so much to us. They're so tough to find. So yeah, we definitely get nostalgic about them, just because they do mean so much to us. And you put so much hard work, like how many days do you go out and not catch the fish, or even on the best systems. And so it takes paying your dues on these systems and learning them. And so yeah, you get an appreciation for them, and yeah, you want to pass that on, or it's a place you always want to go back to. And definitely rivers have that with me. Like I'll look back at rivers and go, God, I got to get back and fish that river. That's a cool stream. And it seems like they all have their own character. They're each their own. They have similar traits, but they're all different, So yeah, man, nothing cooler to get like a river like that historically had those huge fish runs up there, to take those dams down and to restore that river back to what it once was. Man, that is awesome. There isn't much good news when it comes to steelhead and salmon, so that's some of the good news that definitely you and the locals around there have got through and passed. I can't wait to see that take place.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like that is kind of spooky looking around the world and seeing like what is happening to our salmon steelhead populations. Like when you look at what's happening on the OP and like. There's some like little shining beacons, like what's happening on the Klamath and like the river restorations on the Eel River. But it's like it's definitely spooky looking at what's happening to our anadromous fish around the world, because if you look at like population trend lines, the trend lines point to extinction.
I know it doesn't look good. Well, and there's so many different factors that are contributing to them. Not only the rivers, but also all the fishing. When those fish get out in the ocean, they're thinking a lot of those fish that they'll roam like the Bering Sea and roll over on to where they're international waters, and there's a bunch of boats that are fishing for them out there in international waters from different countries that have huge populations they have to support. And so like that's part of the problem, and part of the problem is dams and I know, not that I'm against logging, but a lot of the logging has ruined a lot of the spawning grounds of a lot of those rivers. Yeah. And then, there's also all the gill netting at the mouths of them that still go on, I know it's subsistence fishing, and it's not my job to call it or make the rules or whatever. You take that along with sports fish and everything else. Man, these fish have just had an uphill battle, haven't they?
Yeah, it's pretty like, I'm not sure if you deal with this on the OP much where you go, but I hate seeing gill nets in the river, because those things are just completely indiscriminate, and it's not like they can choose what swims into them and dies.
Oh, I hate it. Like I don't, I just don't like to see it. Yeah, it indiscriminative, and I just think of like like a lot of those things, they're selling those steelhead for dog food. They're not getting a ton of money for them, and it's such a prize fish and so fun to fish for. And yeah, I just hate, it's not my job to make the rules, but yeah, man, those fish have an uphill battle.
Yeah, but like throwing a hay bale in the river doesn't hurt too bad.
It's so true, isn't it?
It was like, I don't know, like 2006 or 7, and we saw some guys hucking hay bales off of a bridge. We're like, hey, what are you guys doing? And like you could tell they were a little alarmed that we saw them doing it. And apparently, if you throw a hay bale in the river, it'll take out like a mile of gill nets.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Like, yeah, just think about all that saturated hay filling up all of the slots and the gill nets and turning a net that weighed practically nothing, and now the net weighs like 2,000 pounds.
Okay. Yeah, little redneck justice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
for
need a
sure.
little more of that in the world, I think.
Sometimes, yeah. Well, man, we do have to get together fishing. Whether it's out there or out here, you're always welcome in Montana. You get some free time. But man, it was really fun to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been listening to your hunting podcast since the beginning, so it's kind of cool to actually get to come on here and chat with you, just because I've spent, I don't even know how many hours of audio you have, but I've listened to most of it.
Oh man, how killer! I got to get you on the hunting side of things too. Congratulations on all your hunting success. Man, oh man, sure fun to see you arrow that good blacktail.
Yeah, man, that was a fun one. It definitely wasn't like as exhilarating experience. I think the hardest part of that hunt was lifting him into the back of the Jeep that I drove up to where he died.
Well, sometimes you got to take the easy ones too. You do all this backcountry travel and looking for all these backcountry spots, and sometimes that deer's standing out there, and you get a chance to go make a stalk. You got to take advantage of it. Take the easy ones with the tough ones.
Yeah, I mean that was an after work deal, and like I'm not gonna, like, it's like 10 minutes from the house. I could get a couple hours every evening, and it just came together.
Well, so much of this life, this journey we're in is really enjoying what's around you. And whether you've been in Oregon, whether you've been Northern California, you've always found things around you, and that's both with your hunting and with your fishing. Like a lot of it is that you just have a free evening or a free day. We're all blue collar, we have to work for a living. And I've just always thought that once I'm off work, that's my time. And it seems like you can always make it down to the river, and you're always happy when you do. If you
Yeah,
go down the river,
definitely.
you may be tired, but once you get down there and you start and you fish and you go, man, I sure am glad I came down here. This sure felt good. But I just think a lot of that life is like enjoying what's right around us, like not spending a bunch of money and enjoying what the country we live in has to offer. And whether that's the hunting the blacktails like you do or fishing the rivers, dude, you do a good job at taking advantage of that.
Yeah, man, I love it. I definitely like. I don't know. I'm generally like, I can't be cooped up too long. So like this whole quarantine thing is a little driving me crazy, but it's also making me realize like how much fun the stuff I have at home is, and like I'm not going to grocery shopping a bunch. I'm not going to restaurants. It's like kind of like resetting the button about like what we think we need, and I kind of don't mind that part of it too much.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of positive that comes from it, right? Improving our own life and perspectives. And yeah, it makes us appreciate what we had and being able to travel and appreciate what's right around us. And yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate. I live in a rural spot. I'm still able to get out. Our
Yeah.
fishing seasons are still open and things. So I'm able to get some reprieve. I'm still working away. We have a small crew, but we're working on a 20-acre parcel, so there's not much contact with humans. But yeah, I'm fortunate. I feel bad for a lot of these people that are just cooped up the whole time. Man, oh man. I'm like you. I like to keep really active. I like to keep really busy, and just on little projects or doing stuff or little adventures or drives here and there. And yeah, this thing just makes me realize like how much more I want to enjoy traveling for different fishing adventures, hunting adventures. Like this will give us perspective.
Oh yeah, man. And just imagine when it's all lifted and we're free to go, it's just gonna be game on. Like we're gonna go and we're gonna go to the mountains, go to the places with our families, go travel, go look at beautiful places. It's just gonna kind of like remake us see how much we love going out and doing our adventures.
Yeah, it's gonna make us come together as a country too a lot. There won't be so much bickering. I think we'll learn from it for sure.
Yeah, man. It's definitely something we haven't experienced before, and I guess we kind of have to do like the glass half full kind of thing and see what happens. I mean, time will tell. We have no idea how long it's gonna last.
Dude, it's unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it. Well, it's part of the reason why I've got this fishing podcast going. Not that the corona is the reason, but just keeping active and keeping busy. And this is something I can continue to do and continue to work on. So yeah, I mean, this is part of the reason, you just this idle time gives us time to think at what we want to do as well and where we want to go, like your lineman school.
Yeah, it's definitely different, but yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on here. And something I kind of appreciated that you were doing for your guests off your podcast is you were giving them stuff, and I'd like to give you some. I want to send you a box of streamers. See if we can get those stuck in some fish faces over in Montana.
God, dude, how nice! Oh, thanks a million. Yeah, I'll definitely fish him. I saw your tie the other night, that white one. Man, I'm stoked. Yeah, I'd love to fish him. Thanks so much, Taylor. That's really nice of you.
Yeah, it's the least I can do for. I don't know. You've been super responsive on social media. I mean, I bet you get a million of those messages a day, and you've given me a lot of good advice over the last couple of years, and really appreciate your our internet friendship. It's been kind of fun, man.
Cool. Well, it's been enjoyable for me too. It's been my pleasure. So thanks so much for doing me a solid coming on the podcast. You're just a wealth of knowledge about fishing. So I really appreciate it. We'll get you on the hunting side of things too. Yeah, I'm so impressed by your growth and commitment over the last couple of years. I know we've talked about putting a hunt together too. We need to do that. So yeah, thanks a million. I look forward to getting those streamers. I'm gonna fish those things hard.
Heck yeah, man. I look forward to the pictures.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, Taylor.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Fun conversation with Taylor. Thanks again for him being on. Some of that whitewater stuff is just crazy. And then just making positive changes to his life with the lineman school and trying to get hired on as a lineman. Really happy for him. I've kept in touch with him the last few years, and a heck of a good guy and a great fly fisherman. So thanks again for him being on the podcast. Make sure to check out everything we've got going on over there at Eastmans. We've got the Eastmans Elevated Podcast. Right now we're giving away a free bow on that podcast. It's real easy. All you got to do is text this number to enter. Just listen in to the intro, the ending of that podcast, and I'll give the details away. And check out, the magazines, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal. And we've also got videos on the Outdoor Channel, Eastman's Hunting TV, and have some videos on the internet beyond the grid. You can just search YouTube beyond the grid and you can find some hunts there. And with that, man, the fly fishing is so good right now, and I get so busy in the summertime, just construction, and we've done a couple of these Western hunting summits, but trying to fit in days and afternoons whenever I can. Salmon flies are just starting to go off here on the upper. This is what I've been waiting for. Got it really good on the big hole about a week ago. So I'm going to get my work done today and fish these next 3 evenings, see if I can team up with a buddy. Or tonight I don't think I have anybody to go with, so I think I'll just go walk a few miles of bank line and see if I can get a couple grabs on that salmon fly. So it's still a touch early, but getting ready to go off here for the next month or so. So super excited about that. I know I'll have Todd Helms. Going to have him back on the podcast with a buddy of his. He's just been crushing it in Wyoming. But he's going to come over and team up with me for a couple weekends and go have some adventures. I got to get my dad out here, get him out for a float. Or before I know it, this summer will be over. It just goes so dang quick, but I got to get out on the water. So I'm going to get this podcast out to you guys and get out today and see if I can't hook up or at least see a few fish eat it. But I really appreciate the support of this podcast, you guys, the ratings, the reviews, the follow on the social media, sharing with your friends. Like these podcasts now, they seem to be mostly word of mouth. So if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to pass it on to your buddies so we can keep this podcast going. It's a lot of time and effort, and we have to make sure that we can make a successful podcast here. So I really appreciate the support, guys. It means the world to me. And with that, I'll check in with you guys next week.